I am 100% confident that not every product in your bag should be tailor-made. I'm not competitive. I don't necessarily want to win club competitions. Of course, that would be nice. I just want to get better myself.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Birdie Golf Club podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you're enjoying the podcast, and if it's your first time here or you're a returning listener, make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button, whatever platform you're on. Get into the comments sections when you're listening to this episode. I want to hear your feedback. I want to hear from you all, and it just makes the podcast better, makes me better as a host, and I just really appreciate it. And sometimes it just keeps me company when I'm feeling sad and lonely. Anyway, that's a morbid start to the episode this week, but we move away from morbidness pretty soon. We've got a brilliant guest this week. We have Luke, the Weekend Tour Pro, as many know him. He runs a fantastic YouTube channel, and in that YouTube channel, he provides something which is really lacking in the space, and something that he identified when he was looking at gear, looking at club reviews, everything like that. Generally, when you see people reviewing clubs, they tend to be really good golfers, scratch golfers or better. And sometimes the data that they provide can be a little bit unrealistic as to what we could expect when we're testing golf clubs. So there it was, the Weekend Tour Pro idea began, and now he runs a successful YouTube channel and is growing in the space. And I think everyone that meets Luke, anyone that gets a chance to talk to Luke like I have, or anyone that just interacts with him on social media knows that he's just a really, really lovely guy. Nothing but supportive to people in the community, doesn't look to tear anybody down, just genuinely wants the best for everyone and will help when he can. So I know you're going to enjoy the chat with him. I know I enjoyed the chat with him. So there's really nothing to report from me again this week. Bad back, doing DIY at home. My wife had she had an operation which she had to go to. So it's been a bit of a manic week, but nonetheless, I look forward to you listening to this episode with Luke, and I'll catch you guys all again next week. Luke, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. First of all, we've had a few back and forths on Instagram on just being part of this journey.
Yeah.
Of basically establishing yourself in the golf space and turning something which you love into something that you can do, hopefully eventually sort of full time. I think that's the goal for most people in the content creation world. What was your first moment which made you think, I want to do this? This is what I want to do, when it came to your YouTube channel, say, specifically?
That's a great question. I think so. My moment really comes back to I've been passionate about sport, and actually maybe something we'll speak about on the podcast is golf is something I found later in life. I only found it about 10 or 11 years ago, but very quickly, like a lot of golfers, became obsessed with it. And one of my passions is I'm quite a data-driven person. I'm really passionate about numbers. I'm really passionate about personal development, self-development. And I was just looking probably about 5 years ago to sort of have some sort of new personal development project, something I could lean into as a hobby. And naturally, I thought I'd kind of be more invested in it long term if it was something that I was passionate about and a hobby. And there's that whole thing of if it doesn't feel like you're working, then you've kind of got the ultimate job, that sort of saying of if you can find something you're passionate about. So I did kind of a number of things. I looked at the podcast route, which you're going through, Dave, and actually I think the success that you're having through it is probably one of the reasons why I didn't do it, because I didn't think I could maybe do it that well to begin with. But yeah, looked at that podcast route, looked at the blog route, and ultimately just settled on YouTube. And the reason I settled on YouTube is I thought there was a little niche for me, which is I was watching a lot of equipment reviews on YouTube. I loved channels that were like TXG, that's now Club Champion. And I love their approach of it being like data driven, letting the numbers do the talking. Yes, there's a little bit of subjectivity in there, but it's ultimately an objective kind of unbiased review of golf products. And I felt there was no one doing it that was like me. So there was people doing it, but they were normally professional golfers, people of plus handicaps or former professionals, etc., or club pros, the likes of Rick Shields that do it, etc. And I just felt there was no one doing it at my swing speeds. There was no one doing it at my...
ShotScope is the tool that you don't have in your bag yet, and the one that you need. Whether you like wearing a watch on the course, whether you like using rangefinders, whether you just like having the tags on your clubs, to know your distances. ShotScope gives you all of that. Before using ShotScope, I was unaware of the best parts of my game and the worst parts of my game, but using their watch and their rangefinder has enabled me to work out where I need to improve, using shots gained data to accurately see where I can improve. And I want that for you too. So if you use the code Birdie Golf Club on the ShotScope website, that will get you 15% off the entire range. So make sure to head to the checkout, put in whatever ShotScope product you want, enter code Birdie Golf Club, and you will get yourself 15% off. It helps support the podcast and can help improve your game.
I was kind of fed up of watching reviews of game improvement irons where a professional golfer was testing it and saying this iron's really forgiving. I was like, well, of course it is if you hit it out the middle every time. What happens if you give it to me who hits it out the heel and the toe and thins it and
give me some real data?
Yeah, give me some real data at 80 mile an hour 7-iron speeds and give me drivers at early 90s. And I just was looking for people that were doing that in a data-driven way in the sort of TXG and similar model, and didn't find it, and kind of was like, that's the one. It's not the podcast, it's not the blog, it's that. And went through a journey that I heard you speaking about in your 50th episode the other day of like, should I do it? Should I not do it? Took me probably 6 months to get over the fear of putting the first video out and knowing it was out there, filmed in my back garden. Didn't post another video for another 3 months afterwards because, again, didn't know if I wanted to do it. But yeah, that was it really. It was just there's a niche out there. There's this kind of goal of personal development, self-development, and kind of where do I channel that into? It's golf. It's learning how to be a videographer. It's learning how to be a content creator. Let's just go on that journey and see where it takes me.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so much you said resonates. I think, and a lot of people that listen to this are probably in the same space, whether they've started something, in the golf space, or they want to start something. They're paralyzed by like that fear of, is it going to be good enough, essentially? And yeah, I mean, yeah, there's so much of that. It really does resonate. Thank you for the kind words as well. I think they're misplaced. I think you could definitely have done it. You seem somebody who's incredibly driven about things. You know your golf, and also your audience as well. I think that's like a really important thing. And I think you're absolutely right. I mean, when you look at these reviews, a lot of people will take like a Rick Shields review of like, I don't know, maybe when he done the Tacoma, the Ignis, the new driver, D1 is it? And they'll go, wow, that thing is amazing. That thing's so forgiving, everything like that. Yeah, he's not at the top echelons of the game, but the guy was a golf coach for a living for a very long time, played to a pretty good standard as well. That's not actually as relatable as what people think it is it really? I mean, because he's going to hit most golf clubs pretty well, and I think actually that's maybe he's probably noticed that as well, because I've noticed more recently he's started to get Guy to do a few more of the club reviews, and they're, although maybe they won't do as good at numbers because it's not him doing it, they've even noticed in that space. So I think you've identified a part of the market which is really important. I was watching your review of the Amazon Basics ball. I haven't got all the way through it yet, but I was watching through I got to the pitching wedge part, and I thought it was just really great data for people, because you're like 20 yard shot, some were going 26, some were going 29, some were going 19.9, I mean, that's golf pretty much how everyone knows it, so how does this ball perform in that? So yeah, I love that, Luke. I think that's awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah. Credit to you for, that first one going out, and then the 3 months afterwards of like, do I want to do this again? What was the?
I did decide to get married in that time, Dave, as well. So I think there was a little bit of it was like getting married as well, and what was the reaction?
Is everything.
Yeah, a bit of context, and what it was kind of like. I think if someone is watching this and they're going through that process that you spoke about in your 50th episode, the one thing I think both of us would say is do it. Just absolutely do it. Like, yes, the market is probably more saturated than ever because the barriers to entry are as low as ever. And that's why people like you and I are where we are at the moment. But just do it. Just find out if you enjoy it. If you really don't like it, you can take it down and delete it. It's not there forever, but just give it a go. And yeah, you might find that your first thing you put out is watched by 10 of your mates, and that's about it. But sometime, whether it's video 2, 3, 4, podcast 4 or 5, someone will stumble across it and they'll like it and they'll tell a friend about it. And, slowly but surely, consistency is key. It just starts to grow, and you've just got to believe in yourself. You've got to be willing to learn, but stay true to whatever your value is, that, the niche that you've got and your own kind of values. But just give it a go. That would be my, one advice. If someone gets 8 minutes into this podcast and wants some advice from someone who's on the journey, please just give it a go.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to start. You don't want to sit back and wonder like, oh, what if I'd have started? Because part of me was thinking, even when I started this, maybe in 10 years' time, I'll be in a bit of a better position to do this. Maybe then I wouldn't have to do it in the evenings and whatever it may be. But yeah, 10 years' time, you're going to look back and go, what if I'd have started this 10 years ago? That'd have been good, wouldn't it? And YouTube is one of those things, like growing up when YouTube literally was first, or it must have been in my teens when YouTube really became a thing, and thinking that it would be what it is now, where people are not only forging careers from it, but they're doing very, very well from, incredibly. If you take the top echelons of like Mr. Beast, that's become its whole island. That's a whole island to itself. That is something completely different. And to think that was a possibility if someone had just put the time in and the effort, you then sort of think like, oh, what was I into at that age? Oh, if I'd have done that. And you just don't want to be in that position 10 years down the road, because you think, like you said, the golf market is probably oversaturated, but it's going to expand, and then there's going to be another set, there's going to be another set that come into it, and then another, and it's kind of non-stop. And where do you fit into it is kind of where you got to. You were saying you got married. How's your wife with this process?
Incredibly supportive. And
Amazing.
If I'm honest with you, couldn't wish for more support. So been very fortunate that my wife has supported me, that as the channel's got a little bit bigger, to take a step back from my day job a little bit. So I'm very fortunate that I now work part-time in my day job, and she supported me in that journey. She's the person that when you get that one out of every 1,000 comments that's negative, that you should just dust off and brush off your shoulder, but you take it a little bit personally. She's the one that hears that rant and has to pick you up from that moment. She's the one when you put 8 hours into a video, trying to come up with an idea, researching it. She's seen you film it, she's seen you edit it, and then it gets 500 views on YouTube. She's the one that has to be like, keep going when you think, is this the right thing for me? So yeah, I'm very, very fortunate to have an incredibly supportive wife. I think we don't have children, which probably helps, because it means there's still enough time in our lives around our day jobs for hobbies and other things as well, and then still have enough time for each other. But she has a hobby that she's really passionate about. I have a hobby that I'm really passionate about, and I think we both respect that and really push each other to follow that passion. Yeah, I'm incredibly grateful for her support. I know that I can't say I would have given up, but there's a few times where I was close to giving up, where if she wasn't there, I would have maybe given up. I can honestly say that. So yeah, an unbelievable supporter of mine, and feel very, very lucky to have her.
No, that's awesome. That's great to hear, Luke. And I think that's essential for anyone, whether married or not. If there's someone that can just provide some support and a listening ear, and somebody to lean on at times, somebody to have a moan at, about, oh, that didn't go as planned, and whether it may be, it is pretty essential, whoever that may be in your life. So that's awesome, Luke. I want to take you back. To before all this, before the YouTube stardom and social media stardom that is the Weekend Tour Pro. I like to ask this question to guests when I remember. Sometimes I forget. When was the first time that you remember picking up a golf club?
So I wondered if you were going to ask me this, because I've seen it in a few episodes. So I actually gave it some thought. I can take you back to a time when I was about 9 years old. And I think I just mentioned earlier, actually as a serious golfer, picked up the game 11 years ago. But I'd always had golf as kind of a thread that was kind of in the background, maybe as a third or fourth sort of hobby. But the first time was 9 years old. So where I live, Portsmouth, about 7 or 8 miles from where I live, there is a pitch and putt golf course on our seafront that is built into a cage. It's probably more famous for the cafe that's attached to it that does unbelievable cakes than the actual pitch and putt itself. And it's a 9-hole course with little circular greens that are about 3-yard circles round them. Not the greatest condition. And I used to be obsessed with it as a kid. And I used to ask my mum to take me down there every school holidays in the summer to play. But you had to be, I think you either had to be 10 or older to play on it, or you had to be a certain height, but I think it was 10 or older. And I remember when I was 9, my mum going, right, I think we can get away with it now. You're tall enough. If you're with me, we can get away with it. And I remember queuing up, and you used to queue up on a bench. I got to the front and I was sitting there going, is he going to let me on? Is he going to let me on? Is the guy going to let me on? And I got let on. I got given a 7-iron that was probably 6 inches too long for me, and the typical generic putter that everyone gets at a crazy golf course, and a low flight golf ball that couldn't go over the cage. The cage fence around the outside. And I just remember that would be something that, I did probably once a year, twice a year with my mum on school holidays, and absolutely obsessed over it and loved it. And if I'm honest with you, I grew up in a family where no one played golf. So that was probably about as far as golf went. And maybe if, like a lot of people, there was golfers in the family, my journey might have been really different from that young age. But unfortunately, it just, like I say, bubbled away as a kind of hobby in the background. It was confined to pitch and putt or crazy golf until kind of my late teens, really.
Well, that's interesting. So yeah, that's a fascinating way to start. I mean, a place with a cage and a pitch and putt, and golf was the afterthought compared with the cafe. But you definitely you enjoyed that experience enough that it stuck with you until you sort of in your 20s. You were saying
so
you took it back up again.
Yeah, I'm 37 now, so I properly picked up the game probably when I was about 25, 26. I was always a footballer. That was me. I was always a footballer, never necessarily a very good one, just a typical average sort of park player, played a lot of five-a-side, loved that. But yeah, cool, probably can relate. And do you know what? The thing with football was, if I'm honest with you, I'm not the most competitive person. The thing I loved about football was just being with my friends. That was kind of it. And did that all the way up to my 20s, just playing on a Saturday or Sunday. And if I'm honest with you, I just got fed up of going into work every Monday morning. I'm quite a slight guy, which I don't know if it comes across in the videos, but I'm quite like slim and not very big. And just going into work on a Monday, and you just had someone wanting to kick you up in the air all weekend, and you're hobbling into the office on a Monday thinking like someone could really hurt me here. Like I don't play to a good enough standard to do this. And I just had a friend, John, who's a little bit older than me, family friend for a number of years, and he just got into golf a little bit more seriously. And one summer, football season ended. Like I said, I'd always dabbled a little bit with the football team in the summer holidays, shooting 130 around the local municipal course. And that summer just started playing with my friend John and became obsessed, and didn't go back to football the following season. And since then, it's just been golf. The thing that I fell in love with about golf, and I don't know if anyone else will be able to relate to this, is I think I mentioned earlier, like passionate about sort of personal development and self-development. Golf feels like the ultimate sport for that for me, which is it's just like I'm not competitive. I don't necessarily want to win club competitions. Of course, that would be nice. I just want to get better myself. And it's like me versus me. Can I improve my short game to get a little bit better? Can I hit the ball a couple of yards further? Can I hit a couple more greens in regulation? It's all that me versus me sort of personal development. Can I improve my mentality on the golf course to make better decisions? All that sort of shot scope. You mentioned stuff you've done with Decade and things. It's all that, and it's always trying to find that kind of 1% to be better, and the same better version of myself that I'm trying to be as a human. Can I be that person on the golf course? So that's the thing I fell in love with at golf. And then obviously the social side of it, of being with my friends as well. But yeah, it's all about the personal development and self-development that I became really obsessed with quite quickly.
Yeah, that makes sense, because football, I played similar standard to yourself. I just would play with mates and regular like 7-a-sides, things like that. But you got the social aspect, is good in football, because at least you're getting together with your mates and you might go to the pub afterwards or whatever it is. But actually, whilst playing the game, it's, it's not great. You normally, I was one for it, would just be shouting on my mates, the whole time, or whatever it was. They'd be shouting back at you. It's not the best. And the personal development side of it, you can obviously get better at football, but generally you either need to be part of a regular team practice that would go on, or you need to dedicate X amount of time every single day to getting better athletically. And obviously with golf, you can get better by yourself in your own time, your own slots. You can get better with a team of you, if that kind of works well. But also you can fit it in around you. We all know you can get better at golf without hitting golf balls. You can literally grab a club, grip and regrip, grip and regrip, over and over again. We see Scotty Scheffler still doing it now. The guy has a special grip club, a 7-iron in his bag, and he just walks around with it. and just grips, regrips, grips, regrips. So we can all do stuff like that. We can all take swings in our garden without a golf ball there and do it in slow motion. Football, it's almost impossible to do that. You can't do it everywhere and anywhere. I remember me and a friend said, right, do you know what? We need to get a little bit more agile. We were sort of approaching our 30s and we were like, right, we used to be way more agile and I'm really struggling now. My hips hurt after I play. All these things are going on. It's not good enough. Let's get more agile. But we had to dedicate so much time, had to go to a specific place to do it. And it was really difficult to maintain. It worked. Like we got a little bit more agile quite quickly, but it was hard work to do it. And I think that's where golf, is tribute to its longevity, because you can get better whatever you do, whatever walk of life you're in, whatever age you're in, whatever it may be. And then the ability also to then take that social out on the course and spend time with your friends and actually ask them how they're doing. Generally it's a supportive environment. Mm-hmm. Generally,
Yes.
Like most things, it can obviously not be at times, but generally it's a supportive environment. So yeah, I think that's what separates golf, isn't it? Really, like from other sports.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. On that subject, behind me somewhere is like a child's 3-year-old length golf club, and that is when I'm this is my office that I do my day job in, as well as some of my filming. And there's a gap between meetings that gets picked up, and I'm looking in the mirror trying to find a position that I've done with my coach and stuff. And you're exactly right, Dave. You can do that.
Yeah, and even training aids. The football training aids are generally considered gimmicks. Most golfing training aids normally are fit to purpose.
Yeah.
Within a point, aren't they? I mean, there are some gimmicky ones out there. When you look at stuff especially with technology as well, how much technology has improved and changed the game on that. You look at Hack Motion. That looks an unbelievable. I've never used one, but the stuff I've seen from it, there we go.
I've got it to review in the next week or so, Dave. It'll be on the channel in a couple of weeks.
This is unbelievable.
Product placement for the Hack Motion guys.
So everyone knows that was not planned. I just seen a lot of Hack Motion stuff and thought, wow, I mean, that looks an unbelievable tool for, you can do that anywhere. You don't need to be in a simulator. You don't need to be on course to do it. You can literally get into the right positions and work on that. I suppose with that, winter is coming. What's your plans? One for the channel, Luke, obviously with difficulty with filming, daylight, everything like that. And 2 for your game as well when it comes to winter. Yeah,
so for the channel in a weird way, so I'm probably in the lull at the moment. So the golf season ends, a lot of my audience, or about 50% of my audience, is American based. Golf season ends with the PGA Tour playoffs. American football season starts and a lot of people's attention switches focus. So for me, the lull is actually in terms of the channel, that period kind of early October to now, where there's no new equipment coming out because it's kind of end of golf season and the American audience has sort of switched over. So actually for me, moving into the winter, we've got a load of club releases that are coming, some that I'm aware of that probably can't share just yet, and some other things that are probably more widely known because you're starting to... Yeah, sorry. Some that are more widely known, right? Because we're seeing them on tour players already. So there'll be, review season starts for me probably in about 2 weeks. I've already got the first couple of things through that I'll be reviewing over the next couple of weeks. There'll be a lot of that on the channel. I'm very fortunate that a lot of what I do is because it is using either TrackMan or GC Quad or Hawk. It's normally either filmed in an indoor studio or on a driving range bay where you're hitting into the driving range, etc. So that allows the channel to carry on through all the weathers. There's a lot of kind of new product to release over the next release to test over the next couple of months, and that will keep me really, really busy. In terms of personally, I'm one of these people who tries to play through the winter. Mm-hmm. I think you have to change your expectations, that if you can get 9 holes in instead of 27 holes in, that feels like a success. I definitely do more practice at this time of year. I find that, when the nights draw in, it's always nice to try and get to the driving range again, just for a social thing with a friend as much as anything. And then during the daytime, if I'm not filming and I'm not doing my day job, I'm normally on the short game area trying to do a bit of practice and things like that. So yeah, I am someone who will be playing through the winter, filming a lot of content, hoping to come out the other side with a golf game that's worth filming in the spring.
Oh, I feel your pain. I mean, the winter golf is just so... I mean, it felt like over the past 3 or 4 weeks, we've suddenly had just in the UK specifically, obviously, it's just that change has happened, hasn't it? We went from a very good summer, I don't want anyone to forget how good our summer was, because we
Yeah.
will. We're British. That's what we're going to do. We're going to moan about the summer not being long enough, but it was unbelievable, our summer. Like, so good from what, end of April,
Mm.
all the way through. It's really good weather, so we were spoiled in many ways. But yeah, I played Manning's Heath
Mm.
last week, the waterfall course, and I played that in the middle of summer, and it was, fantastic. It was beautiful. I got to play it at 5 o'clock in the morning, actually, which was amazing. I played like 13 holes. There was deer running across, and the greenkeepers were out. I scared a couple of them a couple of times because they had their ear defenders on, and then they obviously just took one off to do something or another, and then they just hear this crank driver from behind them just smash and turned around what's this guy doing? But that was amazing, playing it then, and then playing it last week with the weather that we've had. My game just hadn't adjusted yet. You cannot get away with being a few centimeters behind the ball at this time of year, and it's just demoralizing.
One of my golf coaches that I've had over the years, there's many of them, maybe that's a topic for another question. But one of my golf coaches said, this is the time of the year where you get so many lessons booked on, I can't hit my fairway wood. And basically they say it's not that you can't hit your fairway wood, it's just all summer you've been getting away with hitting a centimetre behind it and the ground's let you off, and now the ground is not forgiving anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very typical. I'm very fortunate though, Dave. I'm a member of Blackmore Golf Club, and it's sand based, and it's just incredibly good in the winter. So you pay a premium for that in the UK, but it is definitely sort of one of the benefits of it is that it's very, very playable throughout the winter. And yeah, it takes either a very harsh frost or a lot of rain for the golf course to be impacted. So, interestingly, the last month or so, it's played fantastically well for this time of year and things. So that always helps. And I think it's always an incentive to get out if you know that your golf course holds out quite well in the winter as well. So yeah, I consider myself very lucky to be a member there.
Yeah, I've got to get you over here, Luke, to Seaford Head. I will, on the podcast, I sing the praises of Seaford Head. It is unbelievable condition all year round. I have friends that travel, and it's a public track as well. It's actually owned by the council. But I don't know. Have you ever been over to Seaford?
So one of my best friends lives in Eastbourne, so I know it's not too far from where you are, but I've never actually played it. I've seen it though a lot, and I've obviously seen some of the stuff you've posted, and I've seen it myself because it does look like it's mega for what it is, right?
Oh, it's unbelievable. I mean, in the summer you can get a twilight round there for £22. And it's just in amazing condition. The greenkeepers there, it's obviously on chalk, so that helps with drainage and everything. But the greens are all soil based greens that I learnt recently talking to one of the greenskeepers. So he said that's quite unique in itself in many ways for a lot of modern golf courses, and it enables them not to have to do a lot of maintenance to them. It's a day by day thing. And I mean, this summer with how burnt out everything was, you can only judge a golf course by its greens. I mean, the fairways are going to do what they're going to do, and they were like a luminous green, just unbelievable condition. And testament to those guys because they put in a ton of work on a limited budget as well. So yeah, that's my mission, Luke. Get you over here for a round at Seaford Head.
We'll film it on the channel. We'll do a little match play on the channel. We'll put it out there.
That's terrifying.
Your viewers can then see what the golf game's like, Dave, on YouTube.
Right. Give me some time.
Just
okay,
one thing. Just one
scratch.
thing before you move on to the next question. One thing you've probably learned from going on this journey, something I've learned, is how much more we should all appreciate our greenkeepers. Like you just mentioned, you've obviously interviewed a few of them over this, but wow, do they do an amazing job. It's that kind of one of those thankless tasks that you're never going to please all the people all the time. But, going through this journey, and when I go and play golf courses and film golf courses, very often you go and meet the head greenkeeper as part of it to learn a bit about the golf course and what they've been doing on it, because you're only seeing it on that day or whatever. And my admiration for those people as a job of how hard they work and the hours they put in to try and present golf courses to us against everything that Mother Nature's throwing at them, do an incredible job, right? And it's probably, if you're someone listening to this podcast and you then see a greenkeeper this weekend, thank them, because it's only when you get closer to what they do that you appreciate how hard those people work.
Yeah, I think it's a crying shame in the golfing world when people moan about greenskeepers. I heard someone moan about a greenkeeper sort of watching or sort of running their engine too close while they were trying to make a putt or something the other day. And I thought, that guy is at work. let's remember that first of all. Like, you're out playing golf, that guy is at work, and he's doing an unbelievable job to keep your course in tip-top shape, right? To be able to play it as part of your leisure activity. So show a bit of appreciation to him rather than worrying about his engine being on. I mean, it's just, you're not at the Tour Championships here.
Exactly.
You're playing on a Wednesday afternoon. It's just, yeah. I think actually one of those, we're talking about YouTube. I think it was Foreplay did an amazing job of doing like behind the greens, and I remember they did one for the US Open. I want to say it was at Oakmont, where they spent time with the greenskeepers. And they were doing a series of it, but I think they've stopped it now because it just wasn't getting the numbers. Like, people just weren't showing the interest there. And I think that's testament to your point that it's because it's like one of those underlying things where people just don't really have an appreciation for it. I mean, these guys go to like university to get turf degrees.
Yeah.
To be able to do what they do on golf courses. It's unbelievable. But yeah, I think you're right. I think it's one of those things that we just take for granted sometimes without realising. But yeah, it's definitely opened my eyes to just learning more about the golf space, not just playing, but learning more about it and the people that make it up and the community. You see how important greenskeepers are, because the first person that, if you talk to someone in the pro shop, if you talk to the head pro, the first person that they thank generally is the greenkeeper. It's not the people funding it or whatever it may be. It's always the greenskeepers. So yeah, I think you're bang on with that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, I think 2026 is going to be very interesting, especially when it comes to the equipment side of things, which I'm sure you're excited about. I know you can't talk about some of the equipment that's coming up, but we have seen some of that already been put in the bag. It's no secret. Obviously, you got Rory and Tommy and a few others putting the new TaylorMade QI4D.
Yep.
Is that right? Is that what they're calling it? Yeah.
To be honest with you, I might have got that wrong myself because they're hard to keep up with, how subtle they change them. But yeah, I think you're right, mate. Yeah.
Which is a blacked out version of the QI35 by the looks of things. But Rory seems to like it. So did they build a Rory driver?
Do you know what? Like, so on equipment, it's, one of my sort of things that I talk about a lot is I think year on year, it's evolution, not revolution. I think Hannah spoke about this on her episode. When TaylorMade released the carbon face on the driver, that was a revolution. That was something we hadn't seen before. It was very, very different on the face of a driver, etc. But from year to year, most manufacturers, it's evolution rather than revolution. That's why you have to look at like Titleist irons. We're on the third or fourth iteration of the T series now, from 200. When they're now calling them 250 to show there's a bit of progress or whatever. Mizuno, the irons I played, JPX, we're on a third or fourth iteration of that, the TaylorMade QI range in terms of drivers, etc. So these things, in my opinion, that doesn't mean that years and years of R&D hasn't gone into them and they've done a great job, but I often think it's evolution rather than revolution. And then what you do then get is every year, one manufacturer or a couple of manufacturers will drop something that for them is the revolution effectively. And it's kind of like, is that the thing that's worth you making the jump for? Is ultimately for you to decide as a consumer. One of the things that's probably a challenge for my channel is, I get views by reviewing golf clubs, but equally one of my principles I tell a lot of people is, if you've got last year's model or the year before's, unless you weren't custom fit for it or something's fundamentally changed in your golf swing over that time, you've either had a rapid increase in improvement or speed, or you've had some other physical change that means that you're playing golf very differently. There's not a lot of difference from year to year is kind of something that I see. But I do sort of swear by, I really believe if you've not been custom fit, whatever you're custom fit for is going to hopefully unlock something for you. But in terms of next year, there is something dropping that gets announced in next month. So I'll have that on my channel next month, which for the brand that are releasing it is a revolution for them. It's the first time they've done something in a certain space, which I'm really excited about, based on other products from that brand that I've tested. But that's the only one that I know at the moment that's exciting me.
Okay. Yeah, because I think it is one of those things, especially, and golf does seem to be like very unique for this, is that year on year pressure to upgrade your bag, and the people feel like they're missing out on gains in their game because they've got last year's model or wherever it may be. And, that's excellent marketing. That is what it is. I mean, it's consumerism. That's unbelievable marketing from those brands. Someone's job in that brand is to say this is the new shiny toy and you need it, and you can't fault someone for doing that. I mean, that's why they're as big as what they are. But like you were saying, there's just so many people that then get this feeling that it's not me. It can't be me. It's the club. You were talking about fitting. What was your first experience of fitting, and what difference did you find it made to your game?
So yeah, first experience I had was Portsmouth Golf Centre, local golf place near to where I live. I still have a really strong relationship actually with those with the guys there. Had my first ever set of irons that I purchased were custom fit from there, which was a set of Cobra. I think they were King F7s. That was my first thing. And if anyone watches my channel, they'll know I've got a soft spot for Cobra, and that's why they were the first irons I was fitted for, and probably helped me fall in love with this game sort of 11 years ago. But it was at the time I didn't know a lot. So I think my fitting experience 11 years ago was guided by the skill of the fitter that I had and their ability to tell me the data points that I would understand at that point, but also enough to allow me to trust that they knew what they were talking about and the end product that I was going to come out with was something that was suitable for me. Compare that to maybe the fittings that I've had more recently over the last couple of years, where I'm far from an expert. I've been to places like Precision Golf, based just on the outskirts of London, who are unbelievable. Those guys are the TXG of the UK. They are the absolute creme de la creme, elite of it. Of course, my knowledge is nowhere near the level of those guys, but I feel like I can go in and I can understand the numbers now, and I can talk about what I feel is missing from my golf game, etc., in a fitting. And unfortunately, it's a blessing and a curse when you know your own numbers as well as I do. It can actually get in your own head a little bit. But the fitting process, I think, over that time, the last 10 years, because of things like YouTube, because of the amount of information that's available to consumers, I think consumers generally are so much more informed now than they were 10, 15 years ago. And I think then the expectations that consumers have going into fittings is they expect a service that is of a certain level. They expect to be talked to about certain data points. They expect to see a TrackMan or a GC quad sat down on the floor that's got some numbers coming out of it. They expect to be able to test multiple shaft options, multiple head options. Like, gone are the days, I think, where you can go to a pro shop and they stock 2 or 3 brands and that's enough. I think people want to go and have that full kid in a sweet shop, give me everything from the pick and mix and let me pick the one at the end of it that's right for me. So I think the process has changed. I think consumer attitudes towards it has changed. Obviously, there's still going to be the odd golfer that is happy not knowing a lot and just wants to go in and have that kind of, let the fitter do the work for them. But I definitely am seeing, based on the comments I see on my channel, the experiences of friends, people I speak to at the golf club, the average knowledge that a consumer's got is increased now. And I think that's a good thing, because I think, to your point, when the marketing maybe is put in a certain way, the consumer, I think, is able to read beyond that a little bit and kind of make their own mind up. And hopefully people like myself reviewing clubs, and if you watch 2 or 3 reviews on the same product, you can hopefully make a judgment. And one thing I'm really passionate about in terms of trying to help with that is I'm adamant, and this might change if someone throws me a 7-figure sum one day and that can pay my mortgage off, but I'm adamant that I won't do like paid promotions. That's a real sort of number one value of mine. I get all the time offers to do paid promotions where people want to kind of pay you a small amount of money to say good things about their product. I refuse to do it because I really believe that my channel is the whole credibility my audience is built on. They can trust me to be objective, speak honestly. It's very rare that I speak badly about a product, but that's not because I don't think there's bad products. It's because often there is a product that is suitable for every type of consumer. And just because I might not be getting the numbers out of it, it might be because I'm not the target demographic for it. You put a bladed iron in my hand to review, I'm undoubtedly not going to hit it as well because I hit it off center, or I've not got enough speed to generate what it needs. But that doesn't mean that I don't think it would be great in the hands of my friend who plays off of 2 and absolutely is the prime candidate for a set of bladed irons. So I think, consumers are more aware. You can tell, you can sniff a paid promotion out when you're watching it on YouTube. And I think therefore, consumers more aware, fitting process is improving. And I think that's just the way it's going to keep going. I think, Dave, I think consumers want more. I think in the UK, we're desperate for more grass facilities to do custom fitting. That's probably the one thing we're missing in the UK versus the US in particular. And again, that goes back to your point about the weather. It's so temperamental here. That's just the reality of it. But I think our fitters know the impact of a mat. The knowledge is there. We know a mat takes between 500 and 1,000 RPM off of an iron shot when you're hitting it off of a mat. We know that the data exists, sort of thing. They know what happens to launch angles off of a mat versus the grass. So a good fitter will work around that.
Yeah. Yeah, you see with the fact that TaylorMade are obviously bringing the Kingdom, sort of a smaller version, over to the Grove here as well, and the impact that's going to have on the UK market, having that facility. I think Titleist have already got their one down at Woburn, haven't they? Which you can go and get fitted on grass. You know, I mean, the difference in... I've got friends that took up the game and they would constantly just go and practice at ranges with artificial grass, the mats and everything like that, and then I would take them to a local one that's a grass range, and they're just like, I can't hit this ball, like, this is not... it was going up in the air before. I was like, yeah, you were drop kicking it off of a mat. Like, this is where the game's played. Like, try and get away from those. You know, they're fine for block practice, whatever you want to do, and if there's nothing else available, you know, of course, like, that's why they're there. We live in the UK, that's why they're there. But getting on grass is like one of the keys. I've got my little lad who's 5. I take him to the grass range and I can guarantee he'll get the ball up in the air better than some of my mates, you know, just because that he's been used to doing that. You know, he knows that's going to take a bit of work. And I say to them sometimes, get up a little, you know, if you want to enjoy your time here, tee it up a little, you know. So golf is, you know, it's a hobby. It's meant to be enjoyable. So don't worry about it, you know. And even when we're out on the course with somebody who's just taken up the game, having a miserable time, whack a tee in the ground, tee it up, enjoy it. We can work on all that stuff later on, but guess what? You're going to be doing this for 18 holes. It's not going to be much fun to be taking like badger tails before a golf ball. You know, that's not... Guess what? That's going to hurt your wrists, and it's not going to be much fun either for anybody. So, yeah, I completely agree with you. I think I walked into an American golf, and no slight on American golf, that it is what it is. It's a chain store, obviously, that sell golf products. You know, it's that middleman essentially in the golf situation. But I remember years ago walking into an American Golf and being blown away at seeing the simulator. We're in the year 2025, soon to be 2026, and do you know what your most precious commodity is? Something we wouldn't have dreamed of in the 90s. It's actually your data, and companies are harvesting that data. They're using it to promote ads to you. They are selling your data, and it happens day in, day out. So make sure you protect yourself out there. With a NordVPN account, you can make sure that your data stays private to you. You can even change what country you want to appear to be in to maybe get better deals or access Netflix from the US or Netflix from Spain. NordVPN is a great tool to add to your online arsenal. And you can click the link in the description below and you can get yourself a fantastic deal through the podcast, which helps support the podcast and enables you to be safer online. Click the link below, and currently NordVPN have an amazing Black Friday sale on where I think you get 74% off a yearly subscription. Stay safe online. Make sure you're making the most of your online privacy with NordVPN. You know, and being like, I remember I asked someone in there, like, what do you do to do that? And they're like, well, you got to be buying something. And I was like, yeah, okay. Oh, I'm not in that position. I'm leaving, you know. And then I walked in a few months ago to an American Golf, and I was just, you know, compared to basically every single pro shop that you walk into now, compared with the facilities that are at certain places that you see or that you go by or you see on Instagram, whatever it is, I just thought this has been left behind, you know. And like I said, that's no slight on them because it is what it is and they do very well. And it's a good gateway for a lot of people into the game and into fitting, but you get the sense that there's just not as qualified a people there for a fitting process as what you can go to your local pro shop. You can go to Precision Golf, like you were saying. I went to 9x9.
Yeah. Guys are great there at 9x9. Brilliant guys.
Unbelievable. And the knowledge that they have is crazy. I thought he was talking in tongues at one point. You know, it was mad. And the fitting process as well, you know, I'm not a great golfer. I hit the ball okay. And by the end of it, I had this driver in my hand that was like, felt like an extension of my arm. And I was like, this is insane. Like, you know, this is absolutely crazy that you were able to do this in such a limited amount of time. And like you were saying, I think people were all a little bit more knowledgeable about the game, but equally the professionals now are like another level of knowledge of how to improve your game. And the unfortunate part about that for everyone is that does obviously come with a price tag attached to it. And the cost of clubs isn't getting less in that side of things. The direct-to-consumer market has been in, and I feel like the last 2 years, it seems to have blown up. What are your thoughts on that, Luke? Because obviously that fitting process. I think they are trying to bring it in. I know Tacoma are bringing in I think it's down in Devon. There's going to be a fitting centre for Tacoma, and I'm guessing there's going to be some other brands that will be looking to do stuff like that. But what's your thoughts of someone just, buying it online or getting their rough figures? Is that a detriment to them or good for the game?
I think overall, I think direct to consumer is good for the game. So let's start with the principle as a whole, whether that's golf clubs, golf balls, which the golf ball DTC market's been there probably for a little bit longer. Anything that makes golf more accessible to more people at a cost that they can afford, we should only celebrate that. And I'm a massive believer in that. I think, even speaking about the Amazon golf ball, when I reviewed that, I wanted to hate it because my worry was it might blow some of the DTC competition out of the water. There's small brands that have probably been on a journey that you and I are going on just with a product that might get kind of taken away if Amazon can undercut them and deliver it to your door in 24 hours or whatever. But when it comes to clubs, big supporter of it. The personal challenge that I have, and I'm a left-handed golfer, is most of them at the moment, because they are smaller brands, don't cater for me just yet. So it's really hard for me to get hold of product in the DTC space. If there is a DTC brand watching this that does lefty and wants to send stuff for me to review, I would absolutely love it. I'd love to come and check their facilities out and film some stuff with them. But I also recognize that, we make up whatever it is, about 12% of the marketplace. And if you're trying to break into a market that's really competitive, you would target the biggest chunk of that marketplace. But I think a lot of brands are doing it really well. The experience that I see, the comments that I read, the things that I see from other reviewers out there that are reviewing this product, it's all positive, right? There's 99% positive to 1% negative. And then you've got the upside of the price. And the thing I really, really like is, I think as consumers, I think this is probably one of American golf's potential challenges at the moment, is I think as consumers, we've been so used to big brand, big corporate over the last sort of few years, that I think people, especially in this post-COVID world where we've all been on a journey, I think people want to be with the little guy. They want to support the local coffee shop or the local restaurant over the chain restaurant. And I think that extends into golf. I think people people that jump on a DTC brand early and have a really positive experience, they kind of, bit like when you used to find that band when you're a teenager before all your mates, and you want to tell people, I was there at the beginning. I think people really, really buy into that they were supporting the little guy that was trying to take on the big conglomerate and the big OEM manufacturers. So yeah, I'm all for DTC brands. Not had a lot of opportunity outside of the golf balls to test a load of product there. Would absolutely love to, as more of them grow and offer left-handed offerings. But yeah, I'm a massive fan of it, Dave. Anything that reduces cost to entry, barrier to entry. And a slight aside, again, if you're out of the big manufacturers, it's another reason why I speak so highly of brands like Wilson, Cobra, Cleveland, because they're not spending millions and millions on marketing, which unfortunately probably means they're not as cool or not as many people are seeing them. But every time I test those products, they're either as good as, or if not better in my hands than the other ones that I'm testing. And they're normally 20 to 30% cheaper than the TaylorMade, the Titleist, or whatever equivalent. And I'm really passionate about giving those brands their chance to have their flowers as well, because it's rare they make a product that's significantly worse.
Yeah, I remember having the Strixon irons, like the ZX7 and the ZX5, and they performed unbelievably well, and there's a reason why they're in the hands of like Shane Lowry and stuff like that. I mean, they're just incredible irons, but again, probably don't get as much love as some of the other irons that are at a higher price point and everything like that. Like we said, that is the marketing, that is the whole marketing system, isn't it, at the end of the day? That makes those things difficult.
One thing, if you don't mind, Dave, I wouldn't mind just going back on something you said earlier, and just I like this. This might be the thing that gets clipped up.
Let's do it.
Do you know, like you mentioned, that TaylorMade, Titleist, and the likes Ping that have got their kind of fitting centers. One thing I definitely have learned, and this is kind of like, if I could say to any golfer out there, one thing I've learned is I'm 99.99% confident that one brand is not the best thing for you throughout the whole bag. Just because Rory's got a 13 club deal with TaylorMade and he is your favorite golfer, I'm 100% confident that not every product in your bag should be tailor-made if you want the most optimal equipment for you in your golf bag. There's a reason why tour pros, most of them don't have 14 club deals, because they've still got an old trusty of something else that they love. There's more and more golfers that are choosing in the professional game to be be free agent, and pick their clubs. But for the average golfer, I get the luxury of testing a lot of product, and I'm confident, absolutely confident, that playing the same brand through the bag is not 100% the answer for a golfer. I definitely believe there's a brand that might make great irons and a really good driver for you, or whatever it is, but to play the same 14 clubs through the bag, I personally think you're giving something up if you're making a numbers-based decision. The bit where you might not be giving it up and where someone might come back the other way is there is a hearts and minds piece with it, which is if you pick something up and it makes you feel good, that can sometimes override the performance of the numbers itself, and you can actually maybe hit it better because you want to. I really do believe in the psychology of that. But yeah, that's probably one of the things I would say from being an average golfer that gets to test a lot of equipment. I can 100% promise you that year to year, there is not one brand that is the best at every part of your bag. And I think you're giving something up if you try and fit that way.
And like we said earlier, if that 7-figure deal comes, this clip is being repeated back to you, Luke. All right?
Absolutely. You can absolutely do that. You can absolutely. And do you know what? If it comes back and does that, I will eat as much humble pie as I need to, Dave.
You can at that point. You can buy all the pie, no problem at all. No, I think I completely agree with you. I asked this question when Rory was struggling with the new driver last year, the QI35, and he just wasn't playing well. He went back to the QI10. I put out a clip. It caused, actually on Instagram, it didn't really cause much thing. On TikTok, it was, a whole other thing with people sort of saying I was spreading misinformation, which I didn't think I'd ever be accused of, which is very funny. But I basically just said the question that, should these pros be signing these deals to club manufacturers? Rory's in a position where, sure, I'm sure TaylorMade pay him a bag every single year, and it's great. And it's probably great to be associated with TaylorMade and everything that comes along with that. I understand that. But he's in a position where he could just say to TaylorMade, well, I'm going to play the irons because I love the irons. I'll play maybe the wedges because they seem to be pretty good with those wedges. But that's it. That's all I'm doing. Maybe the spider putter because I've been statistically better since I've been playing the spider. What are they going to do? They're still going to pay him a lot of money to represent the brand, and then he can go and shop around for drivers and see which one's best for him. They're probably going to pay him for that as well. So is he really going to lose out financially from this, and is that really a concern of his? Probably not. He may even potentially be doing better financially from that whole thing. And I refuse to believe there wasn't a driver last year, or he could have gone back and played, he spoke about the M2 being his favourite driver. He could go on Golf Club for cash and pick up a load of M2s that are still going to be legal or whatever it may be. And he'd have probably been statistically a better driver than what he was last year. Mm-hmm. Now we're seeing he likes this QI4D, and maybe he'll go back to performing far better with the driver than what he was. I mean, he still had a ridiculous year, and it seems wild to be talking about the fact that he could have had an even better year. But I think that speaks to your point that, you see someone like Aaron Rise still using the M6, they'd quite happily send him the QI4D or the QI35 or whatever, whatever it may be, to put it in his bag. But he's found what works for him. And I think that's something for us golfers to definitely, you would speak to your point. Us golfers need to recognise that you don't have to be uniform, unless you love it. There's going to be that guy, isn't there, who loves having everything TaylorMade, everything Ping, everything Wilson, whatever it may be. Good for them. If that's what they enjoy and that puts a smile on their face, and they clean them with a wheel every week and a needle, then great. But most of us are just looking for marginal gains, right? That's what we're looking for.
And I think the final point I'd make on it, which is maybe a different perspective on your Rory point, is I've had the luxury of meeting a guy that works on the TaylorMade tour truck, and I've had a tour of the TaylorMade tour truck. What you've got to remember is the best club fitters that you and I can access, these are the level of people that are on those tour trucks. So yes, Rory is playing a whole bag of TaylorMades, but the customization of his clubs to make them as optimal for him, and changing them week to week by subtleties of moving half a gram of weight to a place to give him a little bit more of what he needs that's hidden underneath that head of that driver. That's the things that you and I don't have. We might have it at the point in time of a custom fitting if we go to somewhere with a really good standard and are happy to pay that premium. Rory's got someone on site every single week making those changes for him. Now, that is probably the reason why these guys are happy to pay 12 to 14 club deals is because they know that actually they are playing something that is, they're being paid to play, but they've got access to an elite level custom fitter, every week to dial that
Yeah.
in to be the perfect thing for them. And as you've seen with people like Rory and obviously Tiger, they will even make you a proto iron for you if you're one of the elite players. So actually, you start to get involved in the creative process. I'm convinced that people like Rory and Tiger, Scotty, Tommy, there's a part in their R&D process where those guys will be seeing it 6 months before they start playing it on tour and are influencing the design of it, a little bit. I'm sure the driver that Rory's now playing is influenced on his feedback of last year's model, for argument's sake.
Yeah.
That definitely has happened. So I think that's the counter to it for why those guys maybe do it versus the free agents. But yeah, I definitely believe, as someone who's got, I don't know how many manufacturers in my bag, 4 or 5, I definitely think more golfers would benefit from playing certain brands at certain parts of their bag and mixing it up a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I forgot about the tailor-made guy that seems to be just every tour pro's sort of like kryptonite, maybe in many ways. They're just drawn to him, but the opposite to kryptonite actually, because he's good for them, is Adrian, isn't it? At TaylorMade, I heard, it might have been Tommy or it might have been Rory that basically refused. I think it was Rory who refused to be fit for one of the clubs because Adrian was away on holiday. And because of that, he didn't play it for the first 3 weeks of the year until he got back. So I mean, that, like you said, that family element and that being looked after and having a guy on your team. I mean, they all talk about the fact that they're not individuals anymore; they're teams. That are supporting them. And like you said, those manufacturers with that fitter are part of that team now. That's sort of like a different part of the game, really. Completely different point, Luke, but I thought it was quite funny nonetheless. I was having this conversation with a friend of mine, Chris, who's like a 3 handicapper, and for some reason I've sort of stupidly said to him in the past, because we both have a goal of one day doing open qualifying, like just being part of the numbers. That's all it is. And obviously his handicap is way closer to not even competing at that level, but being recognised as being good enough to be there. And I've said to him, well, I'm going to do it before you. So that's it, right? Which is a ridiculous statement, but yeah, I do it because it sounds funny. And we were having this conversation because I said to him, well, what handicap do I need to get down to make it? And I think he said 0.5 or 0.6 is like the recognised amateur level. And then he said, but he's like, you can just tick pro, right? And I thought, having the Weekend Tour Pro on the channel, I thought this was a very funny point that I had to research this afterwards because I was laughing. Like, we were sitting at the halfway house at Manning's Heath and we're having a coffee, and I just started giggling because I just thought, what do you mean I could just tick pro? And he's like, yeah, you can just tick pro. And then he said, okay, then you got certain things that go along with that after that, but you can just turn up to an event and tick pro. I did not know this was a thing. Did you know this was a thing?
No, didn't know it. No, but then I didn't know it. But equally, one of my friends is a pro golfer, plays on Clutch Pro Tour, which I think you've recently been visiting as well. And when he kind of got to the end of his college career in America, he didn't do anything to say he was turning pro. He just was like, well, I'm turning pro now. So yeah, maybe I haven't given it any thought, but that does make sense. You don't start filling in forms and having to sign things off. I think we're probably used to the old route of a teaching professional that has to go and kind of get their status to prove that they are PGA pro and prove their standard. But for a playing professional, I'd never really given it any thought. But Dave, if you want to be the guinea pig, you can do it, because I'm bad enough playing on camera, letting him alone in front of a group of people and some good golfers around me at 7,000 yards.
It would be, that's, do you know what? I would do it tomorrow just because of the experience.
Yeah.
I would love to do open qualifying one day. For my own dignity, I want to get my game to a spot where I feel like, not that I could compete, but I could have the feeling of competing, right? And I know it's not there. But I was just completely blown away by the thought that you could just turn up. And I think it's the same with the Clutch Pro as well. You could literally just turn up and tick pro. They would obviously be looking for a certain standard of golf, probably to not upset everyone in the field that you're there. But I think it all ties back to that idea of when people didn't turn pro because of not being gentlemanly in the sort of 30s and 40s. Your amateur status was viewed as being gentlemanly at that point in time, and professional wasn't. And I think that's why it's stayed that way all the way through to sort of leave that door open that we're all pros at heart, which I think is a beautiful thing in many ways.
I love it. I love it. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to keep myself as the weekend tour pro and not go any further than that, because I embarrass myself enough playing golf. I don't want to do it anymore, but I'm really happy for you, Dave, to lead by example. And if it goes well, maybe I'll reconsider.
Get to the second stage of Open qualifying by an absolute fluke. You
Yeah.
know, that is, that's the problem, Luke, is the fact that because of my nature, I would always have in the back of my head, but maybe.
Yeah.
Which
I
is
don't know
ridiculous.
I would say, I don't know if you've had the pleasure of playing with like pros. So like I say, one of my friends, I'll name check him, Billy McKenzie, plays on the Clutch Pro. He's been out injured most of this season, but unbelievable golfer. I played with him a couple of weeks ago at Blackmore, and he shot the easiest 6-under I've ever seen, whereby it didn't look like he did anything special. He birdied the first two by hitting wedges to like 2 feet and 3 feet or whatever, but didn't do anything special, in terms of, he wasn't hitting these shots where he's chipping in, holing everything, or whatever. Lipped out on, maybe 2 10-foot putts as well. And you get to the end of it and he's 6-under, and you just think that there's levels like that. And, politely, that's a Clutch Pro player. Billy's trying to make it onto that next level and do what people like Brandon have done, Brandon Robertson Thompson, and go Clutch Pro to Hotel Planner to DP World Tour in a short period of time. And, Billy's played with Tyrrell Hatton, he's played with Ian Poulter, and on a social knock can beat them, because at that level it is such fine margins that from one round on one day they could all beat each other. But it just shows you the level these guys are at, that he's playing third tier tour and shoots 6-under for fun, and he's got to do that every week to get off of that tour, right? That's the standard these guys are at.
Yeah, I was blown away when I attended the Clutch Pro at Mallins, because the quality of ball striking of those guys, and how, like you said, how easy they make it. They pick off the par fives and then pick up the odd birdie as and when it comes to them. There's almost no effort involved in their game. It's just like a business-like procedure that they go on. And I think the winning score was 14 or 15 under for 3 days, I believe. So those guys were going out in tournament conditions and just shooting 5 under. No problem, no problem. Tearing up what is a relatively difficult golf course that you feel like you can't overpower when you play it. And then those guys just take driver over the trees. They're just like, that's fine, I'll just hit driver over the tree to the green.
Yeah.
It's just wild.
Definitely. If you ever get the chance, like I always say this to people, I'm a big fan of watching live golf, but I'm a big fan of not necessarily watching top tier. I'm a massive fan of the women's game. I go to a lot of, if there's a female ladies event in the UK, I try and go to it. I'm a big fan of it because it's so relatable in terms of, to your point, they're not overpowering golf courses. They are hitting drive. Some of them are shorter than me, some of them are 20 past me, but the average is around where I am. And then you put a hybrid or a fairway wood in their hands, and they hit that with the accuracy that I hit a 20-yard chip shot. They're hitting fairway woods from 220 on there. But the pros, the men, when you go and watch people like Billy on his tour, the amount of times they hit driver on places that I would never ever see driver, and I'm hitting it 120 yards shorter than some of these lads, and they're just hitting driver into these narrow corridors and not even thinking about it, right? It's just effortless for them. And I think the standard of golf in this country, around the world, is just unbelievable, that there's so many good players that you think, how are they not making it? Because it's just a level beyond what I can comprehend,
Yeah. Well, like you said, it's that fine margins, isn't it? I mean, it was Dongwon Kim on the Clutch, and he was 4 strokes ahead, I believe, going down the 14th. So watching it is difficult because you don't get the leaderboard and everything like that really updated that often because of the limits of the tour. But it was on the 14th hole, 4 strokes ahead. So I'd run ahead to the 18th just to sit and watch it come in, thinking it's a foregone conclusion. He had a bit of a blow up going down 15, 16, 17. Then coming down 18, there was a bit of confusion of where he sat. Anyway, he got to this putt, which I thought was meaningless because I thought he was, at that point, tied for the lead. As it was, he was 1 stroke ahead going down the last. He had a putt for bogey to get into a playoff, which was under a foot tapping. He taps it in with a bit of authority, like most people do. It perfectly hits the lip of the hole and comes back out to where he putted from. and he's just left. I mean, he handled it unbelievably gracefully at the moment, because a lot of people wouldn't have. And taps it in. I thought the whole thing was meaningless, but it turns out it meant so much more, because that would have been, I think, his third win of the season.
Crazy.
And that would have got him his hotel tour planner status for the following year. Pretty much had it wrapped up. And it was just like, those are the margins at that level where they are playing week to week. Those guys are literally, they're barely earning a living. I had, I've forgotten his name now, which is terrible. Anyway, it will come to me. It will come to me. I had a chat from the Clutch Pro on the podcast, and he literally said it is a week to week. Giles Evans. There you go, Giles Evans. Yeah. It's getting to that point, you see. See, Luke, where I'm forgetting names, which is disastrous. But I had him on, and he's like living, spoke very candidly, living above the garage at his parents' house. I think he earned £2,000 the year before in profit. He's like, it's just not sustainable. He's like, but I've got to give it a try because I want to get to that next level. He's like, go hotel tour planner, and the earnings are there. You're like, okay, couple of wins this season and I'm good. So yeah, like you said, it's crazy because you see, like you say, BRT, the way the year he's had this year and how it elevates your career. You look at Marco Penge, not that long ago, was making a living on the lower tours, and now PGA Tour player as of next year, more than likely. Yeah, if he accepts, obviously, which he probably will.
I think Giles would probably have done a better job of this, but I think at that level, they're all chasing a 6-month purple patch that gets them. They have a branding, effectively. They have a branding where you have 6 months and you win a couple of times, you get elevated, you do well, you get a card or whatever, and it's tough. I'm a big believer, like probably not wanting to get onto a controversial topic of like the whole live thing and stuff like that. But the one thing I really do believe is if we really care about growing the game for me is people putting money in that level of tour. It's people, again, I don't want to keep referring back to Hannah's episode, but Hannah spoke so passionately about the lack of an equivalent for the females, and Justin Rose putting his money where his mouth is and supporting a female tour in the ladies Rose series, which of course that's only a small amount, but at least he's doing something like that. That's the definition of growing the game. That's someone giving back. And I just really wish, in my mind, I personally don't think what golf needed was to give exuberant sums of money to players that were already set up for life. Actually, if you were, whether you believe in the sports washing thing or whatever, the thing that I would have really got on board with is if the Saudis or whatever said, actually, we're going to give £1 million for the next 20 years to these 3, 4, 5 tours around the world, and we're going to sponsor the next group of players that are coming through to make sure that they can all earn £12,000, £15,000 as a base to be able to have a go at this thing. But you're right, every player I speak to on those tours, they're all in the same position as Giles. They're all kind of chasing a 6-month purple patch. They're relying on the generosity of small businesses and sponsors who are kind of living their own dreams through these golfers, kind of chasing a dream that they couldn't fulfill themselves through the golfer they're supporting and hoping to help them on their...
I'm cold, you're cold. Winter golf is very much here. So let's dream of a better place. Or even better than dream, let's go to a better place. If you use code Birdie Double Points at Golf Escapes, it will get you double escape points on your next trip. And you can book a trip, be away in the sunshine, enjoying the beautiful weather, the fantastic golf and beautiful amenities of some of their incredible hotels that they have listed. Golf Escapes will handle the whole thing. They'll set the entire package up and you can enjoy every single moment without a worry. I used Golf Escapes to book my trip to East Sussex National recently for just a brief break, and everything was handled perfectly, to my golfing for the weekend, to my wife enjoying a beautiful spa treatment whilst I was out on course. Peace of mind, just a fantastic experience and a great team over at Golf Escapes. Head over there now, use code Birdie Double Points to get yourself double escape points on your next trip.
Journey. And these people couldn't do it without them. And these are the small businesses that you and I are shopping in, right? And things that try and support the local golfer or the local football team or whatever it might be and give something back. But it's so tough. Really, if I ever got to a point with whatever I'm doing, I've got a few things that I would love to do to give back to golf. And one of my dreams one day is to be able to, if I could really get to that point, would be to create something like that. That's a credible option for people that maybe wouldn't have had the chance otherwise. That's a pipe dream that's, 20 years and a lot of Rick Shields luck to get towards.
Well, why not? Why
Why
not?
not? Yeah, why
Because
not?
it's that sounds like a beautiful cause that would be sort of gratefully accepted by golfers at that level. Because, like you said, it's the week on week stress of just trying to make enough to get to the next one or get somebody to help them. And no one likes asking for help either. That's just doesn't. It's not a human nature to want to owe anyone anything, and that sense over you that you do is tough to perform at your best at as well, right? That's another
Yeah.
stress level added to the whole thing. Luke, I wanted to ask you as well, going into, we're getting towards the end of 2025 and going into 26. Have you got any, goals when it comes to the channel and maybe things that I enjoy what you're doing in the way you're doing it with the club reviews and that authenticity to it and bringing that to a little bit more of a relatable level for golfers. Obviously you're a good golfer anyway, but just that little bit more of a relatable level to golfer. Is there a particular thing that you're looking to expand on or to do?
Yeah, definitely. So I think the thing that's tough is I've grown an audience because of that niche of club reviews. So although you try and dip your toe into kind of other areas, it's really easy not to keep going with them. But something I've kind of learned is I love, and I haven't maybe found the perfect format for it yet that separates me from other people, is I do love the sort of course vlog type of content. Would love to sort of diversify that, but I think I've got this sort of vision for it, which I've not landed just yet, which is I really want to tell the stories of golf courses that don't normally get their moment in the spotlight. And the courses that I'm picking to play most of the time are those courses. But I think there's maybe a different approach that I can take to it, which is not necessarily a traditional golf course vlog like I'm filming at the moment of come and watch me play this course in case you're going to visit it, but more of a cinematic experience that is kind of telling the journey of this golf course when it opened, how it's changed over the years, the moments that have happened there that people maybe aren't aware of. A golf course that maybe was famous 30 years ago but has had its day in the spotlight. Let's kind of bring that story back out. So there's definitely something in that angle that kind of plays to this appetite to do a bit more storytelling. I'm massively desperate next year to expand on collaborations. I think one thing I've not been really good at, if I'm honest with you, is I've kind of treaded quite a lone path for most of the first 4 years of doing this. I think that's twofold. That's probably a lot of imposter syndrome, a lot of feeling like I'm not good enough, a lot of feeling like what have I got to offer in return to the people that I'm collaborating with because I'm the small guy. Probably all things that you feel when you're reaching out to people as well. There's a lot of that in there, but trying to get over that psychological barrier of actually, I think, if you're not collaborating and you're not giving a second voice on your channel, you're missing out on an opportunity to make some really good content and have the sort of conversation we're having on camera. But again, wanting to do that in a way that's a little bit unique. I've got a format that I want to try next year, which I don't know if it's going to work or not, but yeah, we'll see. Which is the format, I don't mind sharing it, is I want to try and do interviews with people in golf that don't speak about golf. I want that to be something a bit different. I want to kind of talk about the person away from the golf course a little bit and hopefully be a little bit more give them a chance to show a side of themselves that maybe they don't usually get to see, because people normally want to dive into their golf career or their golf expertise or whatever it is. I'd love to maybe explore that side of it, of what's their passion outside of golf, and talk to them about that a little bit, or let people kind of behind the door a little bit and things, which could be tough because we're all private people and things, particularly the more you're in the spotlight. So that's an idea for next year. I'd love to explore, but collaborations more generally, I would love to do more of that. I want to get out there meeting more people. And then I think, the club reviews, the ball reviews, the training aid reviews, they'll still be a consistent theme. They're the bread and butter that have grown me an audience. And I'll keep expanding with other formats. I'm really passionate as well about, I think until this year, I'd never really invested a lot of effort into social media in terms of Instagram and TikTok. The reason for that is I always just saw them as a vehicle of trying to get people to the YouTube channel. Like long form is my speciality. I like to chat. That will probably come across on this podcast. But I think in the short form, the one thing that short form content gives me the opportunity to show is a side of my personality that maybe is I love this. I'm this data-driven, serious guy, which is what you see on YouTube. But actually, my friends would more associate the guy that likes to have a laugh and doesn't take himself too seriously. And there's often times with me that says, did I miss a trick by not going down the more entertaining comedy golf route to begin with? But I think social media, what I've learned is actually there's not significant crossover in my audience. I've got a unique audience that are on Instagram, I've got a unique audience on TikTok. They're very different demographics. And then I've got a demographic on YouTube. And actually there's maybe 1 or 2% that cross over those sort of three streams. And then therefore I think the Instagram and the TikTok gives me a chance to just be myself a little bit in the sort of entertaining side, experiment with things, see how it
bit more
lands.
playful.
And yeah, different people, and just have a bit of fun. You'd have seen, put a thing out tonight with me and my wife just being a bit silly
great
on it, which
Yeah.
getting my wife, it was her idea actually, which I'm really jealous of because it's probably the best idea I've had from a social media one. But then getting her to film it, she doesn't like being on camera or anything like that. But she had to film it when I was not, the bit of her bit when I was not in the house. That was kind of how she had to do
That's
it.
the
But
rules.
yeah, that's the rules. Yeah. So I think that's the plan next year, Dave. Like would love to, I'm a big believer in control the controllables. I can't control how quickly my subscribers go up. I can't control the views. I can't control the algorithms. You can't control any of those things. But what I can control is, can I make this week's video 1% better than last week's video? Can I continue to self-develop, personal develop? Can I improve my skills as a videographer to get a slightly better shot? Can I invest in a bit of equipment that might just take my footage to the next level? What is it that I can do to make those videos better? And if the growth still continues, then hopefully, year on year, it exponentially gets a little bit bigger and things. And you've just got to hope that that continues, right? So yeah, that's it really for me for next year.
Yeah, the dam breaks at some point, doesn't it? At the end of the day,
It does.
if you continue, and then before you know it, it's suddenly it's its own thing. It's become its own sort of thing, which is awesome. Yeah, I love it. I love all those goals. I saw your video with Matty, who I hold dear anyway. Matty, I think he's a gem of a person, and I had him on the podcast. Had an amazing chat with Matty, and I thought your videos together. He's a fantastic golfer, but he criminally underrates himself as well, doesn't he? Which is also endearing, which is a lovely quality to have. But I thought that content was great. That sort of collaboration, that on-course stuff, is brilliant. And I think it's a well-trodden path that you're going on as well, because you've seen so many YouTubers that have started in that equipment review sort of frame where that's been their main thing, that's their bread and butter, and then gradually they've expanded into doing more on-course content and carried on from that as well. So you can see there that there's a model to do which could be great for you, and then like you said, with the Instagram stuff, showing a bit more personality like we were talking about earlier. And I'm a strong believer in as well, personalities are what people care about. Behind businesses, if you know the person who's the top of that business and they're likable and they're whatever it may be, if it's your local coffee shop, if you know the guy who runs it or the girl who makes the coffee every day, it makes it more personable and makes you want to give them your business. And I think sometimes people think that doesn't correlate to the YouTube world or the Instagram world, but it does, because at the end of the day, you're still almost inviting that person into your front room or onto your phone or whatever it may be, and watching them. If they're more engaging and more personable, the more likely you are to return week in, week out.
Definitely. And I really hope that comes across in my content. And if I'm honest with you, Dave, it's one thing that it's like a double-edged sword I'm a little bit scared of, is at the moment I have the luxury that I can reply to every single comment I get on every single channel. And I love it. I love the engagement. One of the things I really love about my YouTube community is I encourage people, I can review a product, but I'm reviewing it based on, anywhere between an hour and a week of using that product before I build a video with it. There's people that then watch my videos that own those clubs that then join the comment section and start sharing their experience as an average golfer with that piece of equipment as someone that owns it. And then I can reply to that. And then when someone says something really interesting, I can pin that comment and encourage other people that watch the video to look at that comment. And I'm really passionate about this little community that we've built. I'm very, very lucky to have a really incredibly loyal audience that, a lot of people watch a lot of my videos, even though they're not necessarily in the market for a new golf ball at the moment or a new driver or whatever, they're interested in my review of it. But I'm really, really proud more than anything of the community that we've built. And it's probably one of, like I say, my fears on the double-edged bit is, if the channel does keep getting bigger, that's amazing. I'm delighted about that. And I really hope that happens, because it'll unlock more opportunities for the channel and for me personally. But I really hope that I can maintain that community feel as the channel gets longer, gets it gets bigger, and kind of my commitments to it get even bigger, because it's something I'm really, really proud of. I really, really hope that comes across in my content, how grateful I am for my audience, how grateful I am for everyone that watches the videos, for everyone that comments on it. Every single comment, good, bad, indifferent, I'll always say, thanks for watching. Thank you for sharing. We might see things differently, but that's okay. We're all different, right? If we all saw it the same, there'd be one golf club and we'd all use it. That's just the reality of it. But yeah, I hope that comes across in my content, Dave. And whilst I want the channel to grow and things like that, I really hope that I can continue to have a community feel about it. Like you say, I'm very fortunate, and it blows my mind, by the way. Like, I don't know if you have this with the podcast. It blows my mind when, once a week, someone will tell you where they're watching you from. And it's a place of the world that I could only ever dream of visiting one day. And you're like, someone's in Hawaii watching me on their TV.
Yeah, it's wild.
And kind of, and someone I've got as a gentleman, Torbjorn, who's based in Norway, watches it. And like, I'd managed to do a thing for him where his little boy, he told me his little boy like thinks that I'm famous because he sees me on the telly all the time. And I managed to do a thing in a video where right at the end, I was able to give him a shout out. And this little kid, the dad messages me and was like, oh my God, he wants to go and tell everyone at school that he's had a shout out on YouTube, sort of thing.
Amazing.
More recently, I've had a guy who he's an expat, lives abroad. He's been really unwell and been telling me his story and things like that. And I put a bit out at the end of I think it was at the end of the Amazon video, saying, for once, I don't want anyone to comment on the golf. If you're welcome to, I'd love to flood the comment section with well wishes for this subscriber who's been there for a long, long time. And when he's well enough to watch this video in a week, how amazing will it be when he gets to this point in the video, then opens the comments and sees all these messages? And there's like 60 comments on.
Was that John?
Yeah, John. Yeah, John.
Yeah, see, I didn't even get to that point in the video yet, and yet I could see. So that shows that community that you're building.
Yeah, and I'm so passionate about that, Dave. Like, I'm incredibly lucky to have it. But I'm hoping I'm doing something right, that if people feel that way about the content, like I know I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea. None of us can be, right? You're never going to be
you can't please everyone.
No, you can't please everyone. You've just got to be yourself. The more I do it, the more I feel comfortable being myself. I hope that it comes across that I'm generally, hopefully a guy that's kind-hearted, warm, and wants to hopefully just try and make some good content that's free for people to watch. And yeah, if you don't like it, just switch off. There'll be another review from another reviewer to watch. And if you do like it, please subscribe and watch the next one, right?
Well, I can tell you, Luke, that you come across that way in your videos, and a personal experience as well with Luke that we'd never met before, but you've always messaged whenever the podcast has reached a milestone, or whenever there's been something specific which has spoken to you, you've always reached out and messaged and shown your support as well for what I'm doing. And at times that, like I spoke about in the 50th episode, where it's really tough, sometimes when you get that little bit of encouragement, and especially from someone like yourself that's doing it as well and doing it to a better standard than what I am, it's just an incredible help to have someone like yourself in the community of golf, which I've found to be incredibly supportive as well, like across the board as well. To speak to that consistently, that I've been blown away by the support that the golfing world has, and how people put trust in you to help them, and you sort of go, me help you? This is crazy. Okay, I'll try and do my best. And I want to speak to that you definitely come across that way, Luke, and your content does. And I know that you're worried about the fact that if it gets big, am I going to be able to respond? It may get to a point where you might not be able to, but that community that you've built, like I just said, I didn't watch the whole of that video yet, but I know that, everyone's wishing John to get better. And like to say on this podcast, John, we hope you get better soon. That's all happened because of the community that you've forged. And even if you weren't able to comment on every single one, that would still be happening, because then everyone else takes up that mantle. And they appreciate that. And I think what you're doing's great, Luke. And I look forward to seeing what happens in 2026 with everything. I really, really do. I wanted you to actually be the first of a new. I don't do segments.
Okay.
Right. Generally, I don't do segments because I like natural conversation. But I was sitting down the other day, and I spoke about this in the 50th episode, that it's really difficult for me to be almost analytical and to break down the podcast, because one, I don't like listening to myself generally afterwards. I've had enough of that in the edit where I'm focusing on other things. And two, I don't have really someone to bounce ideas off of or to check things out with and stuff like that. But I sat down and thought, what would be a great little thing to add to each episode? I like asking people generally when they first picked up a golf club because it's a great conversation starter and that's how we get going. But what I wanted to do, which I thought would be fun throughout the year in 2026, is to ask each guest what their favourite golf course is that they've ever played, and putting them all into a bucket. And then basically I've got a treasure trove of golf courses that I can try and get round. Okay. Now, some of them are going to be all over the world and the likelihood of me getting there is going to be quite low, but we can dream. But in the UK, there is a chance of doing that. So I'm not pressuring you to put it in the UK alone. You can say wherever. I mean, right behind me is sort of a course I would love to go back to one day because it holds sort of emotional significance to me because it's the course I was able to play with my dad abroad. Mm-hmm. And it's the only course we got to play in Valdemio in Portugal. So no pressure for it to be UK only. But okay. I want you to be the first guest who gives me one of these courses to go into the bucket.
Can I give a couple of notable mentions before I name the one that I'm going to pick?
You can. I mean, that's a bit of a cheeky way out. But you absolutely can.
I will commit to one.
Okay,
I'll give you the one that I'll give you abroad is there's a golf course in the Pas de Calais region in northern France. Mm-hmm. There's 2 golf courses at a place called Golf de Hardelot, and there's one called Les Dunes and one called Les Pins. Both look like golf courses that you could pick up and put in the middle of Surrey. The Dunes is probably the less well known. The Pins is actually a European Tour Q School course, but it holds a special place in my heart because it's the first time I went on a golf trip with my friends. We went there and we've been back there every year since, and we play that course probably twice on every trip and then fit the other ones around it. So the Dunes course there is just an unbelievable golf course. If I could be an ambassador for a golf course that wasn't in the UK, it would be that one.
Be the one.
In the UK, the one that there's 2 that spring to mind. I loved Hankley Common when I played it, but the one that I'm going to call out is Royal Porthcawl. Royal Porthcawl, I think I went and played it, and then I went and watched the Women's Open there this year, which was absolutely fantastic to go and see them play it how it should be played. I think I've not seen a links golf course like it. Where I live, we've got Hayling, which is a links course, but there's not many within sort of 50 miles of me, so I've not played as much links golf as I would like. But Porthcawl, out of all the links courses I've played, the fact it's built onto the side of a hill has got this kind of unique grandness about it that when you're on the top holes, you're playing a links course whilst looking over the rest of the links course. It's absolutely unbelievable. The grandness of some of the holes, there's a hole, I can't remember the exact number, but there's a hole which someone that will listen to this will know. I think it's like 15 or 16, which is a straight par 4, but basically there's a dune of bunkering in front of you that's about 20 foot high that you've got to play your second shot over. And it's just like the sheer grandeur of it is amazing. The clubhouse to go in is everything you'd want from a traditional golf course clubhouse with a load of history. The welcome you got from the Welsh was absolutely unbelievable. The food that we had there afterwards was great, and had the luxury of playing it with a couple of friends on the day and just had a really, really good experience. It is pricey, unfortunately. It's one of those golf courses that is expensive to play, and as its stature goes up, it's only increasing in price. But yeah, if you get a chance to go and play Royal Porthcawl, or if someone listens to this and is a member and wants to give you a member's guest rate, Dave, bite their arm off and take it. You will have an unbelievable experience. So yeah, that's probably the one that stands out for me. I would go and play it again tomorrow in a heartbeat.
Perfect. There we go. Royal Porthcawl is going to be added to the bucket. I'm going to get an actual bucket, I think, for it. And that one will be added in, which is awesome. Thank you, Luke, for being the first guest to take part in that, which is pretty cool. And I'd love to get there. Sounds amazing. Sounds right on my street. I love that. I love that kind of golf course. Well, Luke, listen, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Like I've said, thank you so much for the support you've shown to me personally as well throughout this first year nearly of the podcast being going. I look forward to very much watching what you do in 2026. I've actually got a lot of videos to catch up on as well. I've seen some of them, but I need to catch up on a lot more because there's some golf equipment choices that need to be made, and I know who my go-to person is going to be now. I'll pop all of your socials in the description for this episode, and I encourage everyone to go and check out Luke's channel, Luke's Instagram, Luke's TikTok as well, because he's a great follow, and as you've all learnt, just a really, really lovely bloke. And hopefully, Luke, we get to tee it up somewhere, anywhere, but ideally, Seaford Head. You need to experience.
We're going to do it. I told you, I want more collaborations next year, Dave. You've booked your name in before I start spamming all the rest of the community over the next couple of weeks to book them in. Me and you are going to get the date in first. We'll get it done. We'll get some drone footage filmed of it as well, which the golf course can keep, which is, I love doing the drone stuff. So we'll get that done as well.
Fraser will love that. He'll love
we'll
that. Awesome. Well, I look forward to it, Luke. Thank you so much for joining the podcast.
Thanks, Dave.
Cheers, mate.